Remember that song, like, "The Future's So Bright, I Gotta Wear Shades"? It's not, and I don't have any shades.
Hard Rock.
My social anxiety disorders are pretty well documented.
Hard Rock.
That's a win for me.
Hard Rock.
For those of you like me that are right now, that are doing their absolute very best and still failing or falling short, man, I gotta tell you, I am right there with you.
Hard Rock.
My beard changes color like a mood ring.
Hard Rock.
How do you think that's going to be when you're 85 years old and you're just trying to pay for an extra bed because you broke your hip?
Hard Rock.
Let's either die or go through some light housekeeping.
Hard Rock.
I'm sorry, this is doing a lot of good for you on radio.
Hard Rock Lunchbox.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. It is now time again for the Hard Rock Lunchbox and the top 20. If I sound exhausted, it's because I am. I'm also tired of all these notices popping up on my computer. If we could just do that at a different time, I'd appreciate it. It is a drizzly, not grizzly, drizzly, January 25th, 2024. How's everybody doing today? Yeah. I don't even know that I could explain everything that's gone on in the past week here. Things like I just didn't see coming. I mean, not personal life, well, all personal life really, but like not personally, not music, just like a lot of work stuff and how that spills out into stressors for the future. So I'm a little overwhelmed. I'm having a little trouble speaking. That's why, like, I'm really completely and entirely off my game today. I will say, just to make a quick announcement, because of the things that are going on outside of Hard Rock Lunchbox land, I will not be here next week. Almost certainly. I mean, there's always a possibility, but almost certainly I will be at corporate headquarters in North Carolina. And I had actually considered trying to figure out if I could just kind of do the show on the road, but like literally at this time next week I will be knee deep in a lot. So, no to all that. I'll try to remember to post a notice so people just don't show up here and like wait the 15 minutes like normally when I'm late. Yeah. So I won't be here next week. I'm going to apologize for that in advance. If I am going to be here, I'll make a post about it or something. Man, I seriously, like, I could not be more exhausted from just living life the past, 72 hours has been a lot. Like, it's funny, like, I'm so tired. Like, so tired. But, like, I'm tired and I am overwhelmed and I am literally at the end of, or the edge of what I can mentally handle. Like, it's not a physical thing. Like, it's unfortunately someone like me who has the physiology that I have. Really, when I was younger, man, like my stress was, I could focus it into drive and kind of do action and stuff and kind of burn that out. I found in my kind of later years a lot of post-COVID stuff, and it might be related. I don't know. I'm not here to conspiracy theory anyone, but I found that my ability to do that has waned, and I am definitely way more in physical peril over mental anxieties and stresses. And it's nothing, like, I'm not special. Like, I don't have any sort of condition that other people don't have. I mean, if you were going to label something, I think my social anxiety disorders are pretty well documented. Most people have seen them in action. I've certainly talked about them enough here. I have a history of depression and stuff. I'm not in that particular boat right now, so that's a win for me as far as I'm concerned. But just in terms of the amount that I am mentally able to handle before the physicality of it starts breaking down is just, I'm there. I'm way past that point. And, I'm offering it up just as an explanation for just kind of like how not good of a show this part is going to be, because I don't know how coherently I can even speak on other things that are going on. And there's a good amount of stuff going on in the world, like some important stuff, I think, certainly politically, sociologically, sociopolitically, and stuff like that. And I did have one thing I wanted to talk about, that because I was watching this Robert Reich thing that I thought was super interesting, but we can get into that maybe in a minute. But I'm sharing it mainly because it's a lot for me, like personally, to handle, and I tend to deal with a lot of stressors like this. So it's not an uncommon play. And also, like, if you're watching this, like, you can see, like, how bad it is by, like, how gray my beard has gotten, which I do find fascinating. Like, I don't have a beard all year, so, like, I just kind of have it really in the winter months, and that's really only been a recent thing. But I've found that my beard changes color, like a mood ring, but like a mood ring for stress. And I can always and like anybody could tell by, like, I have like a almost white patch right here. This was my natural dirty blonde hair color, like, 3 days ago, and now it's not. Like, you can see, like, kind of like the rest of it. Like, this color, this is like what it should be. I'm sorry, this is doing a lot of good for you on radio, but maybe it'll compel you to watch the top 20 next week on the Stranger Hit TV. But anyway, so it's like you could just sort of see, like, how the physicality of the stresses that I'm under are just debilitating and overwhelming my physical being, which just sucks. It's just causing me a lot of grief. And I haven't slept worth a shit in a week. But, so I'm telling you that as an explainer and an explanation as to why the top 20 may not go so good and why it might be a little bit incoherent. But also, like I do so very often, is I explain or will discuss things that are going on, problems that are going on with me, because, over my experiences, sometimes, like, I'll share things, with people and friends and stuff, or even just here, and then what I hear back is like, oh my God, I'm going through that too. So, I do it. I've done it over the years as a means to, like, hey, you're not alone. This is something, especially if it's something that I've been working on. Like, I've tried to work through some of this stress, like in therapy stuff, where it's like, all right, well, let's just focus on, where's the positive in it? Like, what positives are there? And it's, and there are positives for what's going on, but, like, they're, not always, and a lot of them are bathed in negatives, and it's like I was listening to some stuff with Tony Robbins the other day while I was walking, and he's talking about, like, people that, it was on the Theo Von podcast, if you want to check it out. He was asking Theo, it's like, what do you focus on more, things you don't have or things you do have? It's like things you don't have. Like, what do you focus on more, things you can control or things you can't control? It's like, well, things I can't control. And I think there was one other question. It's like, what do you focus on more, the past, the present, or the future? And he's like, well, I kind of dwell on the past and stuff. And, I realized that I was a full trifecta for all those three negatives, because it is the thing that bothers me the most. Like, I realized, like, how much I actually do have that's good in my life. Like, really good. And I get overwhelmed really quickly by the stuff that I don't have, right? Like, I think in this day and age, a lot of us, especially here in the Northeast, like, have an unhealthy relationship with money because it's becoming almost impossible to afford to live here, right? Like, and it wasn't like that, 10, 20 years ago. Like, it's been, it's pricey. It's always been pricey, but, like, we're at the point now where a lot of people, like, I know, like, are really being, not even like they want to leave Long Island. I mean, like, honestly, it's really going to shit with the people that are here, but, like, not you guys. You guys are cool, but it's really becoming like a place I wouldn't want to live socially anymore. But the reality is the economics of it, like, are forcing a lot of people out of here because it's absolutely impossible to live here financially. Wouldn't ask any 20 or 30 something how good it's going. Like, unless you happen to have, like, an exceptionally good job, like, you're going to struggle, and that's problematic. So I tend to focus on those things because they just overwhelm me. They're also everyday. Right, money's like kind of an everyday thing, which sucks. And, for years it wasn't like that, but it is now, and it sucks. I don't like it. And then, of course, the things you can't control versus the things you can't control. I am constantly steeped in the, well, what in this can't control pile can I move over to the can control pile? And what I've been working on a lot recently is that I'm trying to let go of some of the control and just seeing what I can influence. I used to say with pride that I could, really make some things happen by the sheer force of my will. And that was true. Like what I used to do with G Davy and early Rebel 9 in terms of touring, in terms of organizing shows, and my role in, or my share of like building up what I thought was a really pretty intense scene there for a few years. Those are things that I would just will into existence, and then I would just back them up with the sheer force of my size and magnitude, right? Like that's control, and that's bad, right? Like that is like when you're that much of a control freak on things, like that's bad. Like I mentioned a couple weeks ago that I had, it wasn't really an argument, but it was kind of like a reckoning or something, just at rehearsal, where I was saying that whatever we were rehearsing was like kind of good enough, and I got called out for being like, well, what's good enough? Like, why don't we shoot for better? And I was like, well, I feel like those days are over. I'm not going to shoot for perfection anymore. One, because it's not really attainable in the situation that I'm in musically, and also it doesn't matter. I've been perfect. I've shot for perfection, and I've delivered perfection, a handful of times. It just doesn't matter. It really doesn't. And that kind of realization was a very hard thing for me to grasp, but it actually allowed me to be a much happier person in the realm of, the band and stuff like that. Because if I'm not constantly disappointed because things aren't living up to this standard that I think they should be, it's a lot easier to not get disappointed then. So that's good. But I do spend a lot of time trying to influence things that I can't control into the things that I can control. And that doesn't seem all that uncommon either. Also, I am very steeped in the past. I have a lot of baggage and damage from childhood that kind of comes up from time to time that I do try and work on. I was thinking where my answer really should fall in there, and as I thought about it more, it's probably not so much the past anymore. It used to be. I used to really dwell on those things. I was really touched by, and not in a good way, and not in a Catholic priest sort of way either. But I was really touched by a lot of the things that have gone on in my existence, basically before being an adult, and then some things obviously as an adult as well. But as I thought about it more, I really kind of think I can split that difference between the past, present, and the future, and that's kind of hopeful, although a lot of the future isn't bright. I'm not focused on it brightly, I'm focused on it in a sense of worry, and that kind of brings us back to money and stuff like that, which is problematic. The thought of being broke and forced to live on the streets in a box and eat cat food, although my cat eats some really good looking cat food, I might add, but the thought of that, you see this all the time, that people are living a little bit longer because they can hook you up to machines and give you medicines and you live a little bit longer, but sometimes that quality of life looks scary as F. I'm not sure that I want to do that, especially since the trend currently seems to be less and less care. I mean, the Republican kind of mantra, and this is not political at all. This is just what they're saying. They really want to privatize, healthcare and Medicare and Medicaid and stuff like that. That is not going to bode well for us when we are of age to receive that. It never is. There's bureaucracy and red tape and waste with government stuff, but at least you get the services you get. You try and get something covered by a private health insurance company lately. Right. How do you think that's going to be when you're 85 years old and you're just trying to pay for an extra bed because you broke your hip? And they're like, no, walk it off, because they're a private company. And they're allowed to do that. They don't have to answer to people like Congress. It kind of worries me a little bit. So I guess it's good to spread that out, that I'm not just focused on the past instead of I'm focused on the past, the present, and the future. It's just I need it to be a little bright. Remember that song, The Future's So Bright I Gotta Wear Shades? It's not, and I don't have any shades. So, but anyway, so I was listening to that, and Tony Robbins is basically stop doing all that. And I was like, oh, okay, Mr. Robbins, I'll just stop doing that right now. And it's just not as easy as that, that sounds. And for me, it's a function of Like, I could probably do it if things just kind of halted for a little while and I could wrap my head around it. But it's the barrage of things. And I find that tends to be a lot of the case with other people, too, that kind of struggle with these things. And I've looked at it as kind of like this sort of vortex that just brings in bad energy and stuff like that. And I really try and halt that because I feel like that has some power. That magnetism works in, both good and bad. So I really try and halt that. But, man, sometimes I just cannot seem to get out under it. And, again, I'm only really sharing that because I know other people experience those things. So, A, you're not alone. B, if I can come up with anything that'll help me through it, I'll share it here. I'm a big believer in gratitude and stuff like that. I will say that one thing that he did say, Tony Robbins did say, that I had never really considered before. He was talking about like gratitude and how like kind of like gratitude journals, not that they don't work, but I think he was alluding to the fact that we kind of do them wrong. So I don't know who out there like does work in gratitude. If you don't know what it is, like gratitude work is like really super important. It's generally done in this sort of way where you like wake up in the morning or before you go to bed at night. Either one. It's usually like a quieter time. So you wake up in the morning, write down 5 things you're grateful for. Just every day. It really puts you on a much better start to your day, right? Like, because you're thinking 5 things that like these are good things in my life. Like it starts you just a little bit higher. So it has an incredible amount of value mentally, right? But he was saying that a lot of times we just do this wrong because you'll be like, I think he used like a roller coaster. It's like, he said like a lot of times you'll be grateful, like I was grateful for getting to ride Kendaka or whatever roller coaster you want. Like that would never make my list. I hate roller coasters. But when you're remembering like that, like that's called dissociative gratitude or dissociative something because you're not doing it. You're just remembering that thing that's kind of over there. You remember doing it. But he said the way you're supposed to do it is you're supposed to like really like close your eyes and like embody the memory, embody the gratitude, embody the thing you're grateful for. So like if you're like grateful for your kids, like picture them and picture why you're grateful for them. Like my kids are awesome. All 3 of them are just fantastic. Like I don't talk about them all that much because like I feel like they have private lives and not like I'm super famous celebrity or anything, but like if they want to talk about their own shit, they can talk about their own shit, but like they don't, so they won't. Like I will say that my daughter actually accomplished something really, really impressive this past week, and so like when I was trying to do that, I closed my eyes and I was like, I saw her like doing, like I know we have fans of like Harry Potter out there, so imagine, if you will, the Sorcerer's Stone, and like looking into the mirror when it's the thing that he most wants. Imagine a mirror of gratitude. So you're actually seeing, like, you know how he lies, and I hope this isn't a spoiler. You know how he lies? It's like, oh, it's me winning the Triwizard Cup or whatever, the Quidditch Cup or House Cup, whatever the hell it was, Hogwarts Cup, like that. But like literally closing your eyes and seeing that, like that would be what you're trying to do. So if I can offer you up any advice for this week, it is when you are trying to explore your gratitude and things you are happy for, like try and embody it as much as possible because that is what creates the chemical reaction that will really help you out. And I know that that's very silly and granola and hippie, but like it's the one piece of thing I kind of gleaned this week that might actually be helpful to somebody else. I realize we're almost at the end of the top 20, but let's either die or go through some light housekeeping, because I think that's probably important. Brand new top 20 is out. It is Biden's Weather Machine. It's the Biden's Weather Machine episode. And I do talk about like how I didn't think people wanted honest reviews. I have yet to go check out The Bacon Is My Podcast to see what kind of reviews they've been giving. I also have barely spoken to Mike or Jimmy in a week, as I've just been really just completely buried in everything going on here. And it's all I can do to just like kind of keep up. And I will say that like if I wasn't going to be away next week, I probably wouldn't have done the show. Like that's how bad it is right now and how much stuff is going on. But I talk about like walking sidewalks, the Trump supporter that wants to hunt Yogi and Boo Boo in Jellystone Park. Also on Bacon's My Podcast, they have Heather Taddy. She's a paranormal investigator. She did the full interview on Monday. I do want to check this one out. The Discussions and Drinks that was out yesterday. I saw it last night. I just didn't get a chance to watch it. I saw that it existed, but I didn't get a chance to watch it. It's Whiskey Storytime with Jimmy, but getting real about booking guests. I'm very interested to see what that take is, because there's definitely stuff I know from my own experience with booking guests. It's stuff that I know from other people that I've talked to that book guests kind of for a living, so I'll be super interested. 7 Questions is Between You and Me. I think that's a band. That'll be out tomorrow, but again, the top 20 is out right now. Feel free to give it a watch, give it a like, give it a subscribe, comment on it or whatever. I have started keeping the page up, so I'm much more likely to respond to comments. I know that sounds ridiculous and shitty, but it's really the best I can do. And sometimes the best I can do is literally the best I can do. And I feel like I've been living in that space and expressing that sentiment a lot lately. And for everybody else that's out there really just trying to do their absolute best and yet still failing or still falling short, which honestly, like, doing your best and getting it done even badly is bad enough. But like, for those of you like me that are right now, that are doing their absolute very best and still failing or falling short, man, I gotta tell you, I am right there with you. It sucks, and I am so sorry that you're in that situation. And I want to tell you that it's going to get better, but I'm a realist, and I know that it doesn't always, so it just might pass. And maybe that's just going to be good enough, because we've all got a bunch of landmines in their way. And unfortunately, that's about as good of a segue as you're going to get out of